we're going to start with this idea of fighting fire with fire. Democrats across the country backing Texas lawmakers under the threat of arrest this morning. Today, the State House will try again on a vote over new congressional maps that could sway the control of U.S. Congress next year.
Members, a quorum is not present. The roll has been called and a quorum has not been established.
So the Texas House was forced to adjourn Monday with most Democratic lawmakers bolting for places like New York and Illinois. They wanted to block a vote on those new maps. Now, the Texas House Speaker and Governor Greg Abbott are issuing civil arrest warrants.
To run to states like New York and Illinois to protest redistricting is kind of like running to Wisconsin to protest cheese. It's just kind of outrageous. Those are New York and Illinois are two hallmark states that have already done redistricting to eliminate Republicans.
The protest move from lawmakers is emboldening governors in some deep blue states to redraw their own districts to make up for the 5 seats Democrats might lose.
All's fair in love and war. That's why I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible. This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
Joining me now in the group chat, Jerusalem Demsis, contributing writer at The Atlantic, and Chuck Rocha, Democratic strategist and former senior advisor to the Bernie Sanders presidential campaigns, and Ashley Davis, former White House official under George W. Bush. So, Chuck, I almost wore a hat.
Come on now.
Just because I knew how jazzed you would be about this story. The Venn diagram between you and this story is a circle.
Yes.
So let's start with you. You care about congressional races, because that's what you do for your work, and you care about Texas. What do you see in this moment?
I think it's important to level set, and we talk about this so much over the last 48 hours that we redistrict and everybody gerrymanders. I take all of that with a grain of salt because that's true, but we do it every 10 years after we do a census, and whoever's in charge of the state government gets to draw their lines. You can fight about the system, but that's the system. The thing that's wrong here is that this is in the middle of the system. This is unprecedented. We've done this once or twice way back. The reason we're doing it, and nobody's talking about the reason they're doing it, is that Republicans are worried about the midterm elections and they want more seats to play with.
So the timing is the thing that when Hochul says this is war, it's the timing because it's ahead of midterms.
And please step away from me if you're going to talk about, oh, now the Democrats are doing it because the Republicans are doing it. Texas was minding its own business, walking down the street, and somebody come up and cold cocked them, and now they got up in the other states and they're fighting back. You can't get mad when you get sucker punched.
You're saying Texas is just walking down the street. That is not sort of how I think about this, because Texas Republicans introduced this, right? So actually, I want to give you a word in, since Chuck had such a launch. Governor Abbott is threatening to try and have the lawmakers removed from their offices because they're gone, say it's vacant. Here's what he had to say about that.
They're leaving, and they've left because they're very un-Texan. Texans don't run from a fight. I believe they have forfeited their seats in the state legislature because they're not doing the job they were elected to do.
Just to translate here, potential implications for saying, oh, special elections, all these people have left their seats or whatever. The immediate threat is potential arrest. What are you thinking about as threats?
Well, I think, number one, the most important part of this is this has happened 2 other times in regards to Democrats have left Texas.
Yeah, most recently 2021.
2021, and it took them 35 days to come back. What I think's different this time, that's the most important part, is they're missing this vote on the funding for the flood victims. And I think at some point politically, that's going to be a major issue for the Democrats. In Texas. So they're missing not only the redistricting vote, but also the vote for funding. And that's the problem politically for them.
Here's how the Democrats are at least talking about the threat itself of potential arrest. Let's keep in mind, I think they're facing fines of, is it $500 a day for being out? Here's Yolanda Jones. She's with the Texas State House. She's a Democrat.
There is no felony in the Texas Penal Code for what he says. So respectfully, he's making up some okay? He's trying to get sound bites, and he has no legal mechanism. And if he did, subpoenas from Texas don't work in New York. So he gonna come get us how?
Wow.
Yeah, come at me. That's a very come at me situation.
I feel like so much of this conversation is in the tit for tat about, oh, who's to blame for this or who's actually acting inappropriately. But I think if you take a step back, I mean, this is the kind of thing that political scientists warn about in degrading democracies. When the rules of the game are politicized to the point where, partisan back and forth turns into language like this is a war. And I don't think it's all, to blame on, Kathy Hochul for saying. I mean, this is something that's been said by many politicians of both parties for years now. But as this continues to escalate, if every single redistricting is just a battle of how to disenfranchise the other party because you're afraid of your party being disenfranchised in another state, that's how you get to real democratic decline. And I think we've seen a lot of concerning signs already that, the United States of America's democracy is in serious trouble. And that's what I'm really thinking about.
So if Republicans prevail with their redistricting plan, 5 seats currently held by Democrats would simply vanish. Those lawmakers could lose their jobs. The move has governors in several blue states threatening to retaliate by gerrymandering their own congressional maps. And the head of the Democratic National Committee says his party is ready for the fight.
Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, Ken Paxton, they said they wanted a showdown. And guess what? That's exactly what they're getting, a showdown. This is not the Democratic Party of your grandfather, right? Which would bring a pencil to a knife fight. We're bringing a knife to a knife fight. We're going to fight fire with fire. And we're going to do everything we can right now to stand up against this unconstitutional power grab by the Republicans.
I want to bring in Gabby Birnbaum to the group chat. You're the Washington correspondent for the Texas Tribune, so we needed some Texas detail here. Yeah, because this is not the first time that Texas Democrats have fled the state to try and put a stop to something. And the last time it happened, a couple of Democrats snuck back home and cut a deal. What's different this time?
Well, I mean, I think we're going to see how long it lasts. This has gotten enormous national attention, and it did in 2021 as well. But because this affects control of the U.S. House, because it's about redistricting, you're seeing so many national Democrats with presidential ambitions in 2028, getting involved, talking about this, hosting, right, these Texas Democrats in their states. And so I think as long as there's national attention on this, there's support from the DNC and other groups, we'll see how that is able to keep Texas Democrats out of the state and see how long they can make this quorum break last.
The flip side is for Republicans in the state, they're still holding these votes. There's this civil arrest kind of, I don't know if it's symbolic, you can tell me. What are they doing in the face of all this attention?
Yeah, I mean, for right now, the floor is frozen, right? Those arrest warrants are largely symbolic. They're not, they don't carry criminal penalties. They're not enforceable outside of Texas, right? But for the Republicans, they're going to try to make the case that there's further business to attend to in this special session, flood relief, right, being the main one. And so you're going to see a lot of messaging back and forth, I think, between both parties in Texas on who's holding up flood relief.
But is this kind of all over but the shouting? Can Democrats prevent this from happening?
That's right. I mean, the last time in 2003, the Republicans pursued a mid-decade redistricting in Texas, same thing. Democrats left the state. They eventually did come back. In 2021, over voting rights, right, as you mentioned, they eventually did come back. So, this is an effort to delay, but almost always a deal does get cut. As you mentioned.
Throwing this to the group, Jerusalem, I want to ask you, Democrats for the last couple of years have been like, we should have independent redistricting commissions. This should be done by bureaucrats somewhere. It'll be more fair. And it seems like, is that the pencil that Paxton was talking about being brought to the knife fight?
Yeah, I think that's the pencil he's referencing. And it's kind of hard because from the Democrats' perspective, it feels like unilateral disarmament, right? If the other side is choosing to engage in gerrymandering or in redistricting that's going to benefit their party, then if you are doing these independent redistricting commissions, you're not actually providing for equal rights across the whole country.
Well, it makes it harder now, right? Because now you have to go over your own laws that you pushed, am I right? You got to now say as a...
I went back and looked at all of the states and their redistricting laws, and all the states, Democrats have the governor, the state house, and all of the power. They've all created these commissions because we're the party of do right and have good governance and do the right thing. When they're the party of, let's go in here and break things, like stow out our elbows and make sure people know that we're in charge. And guess what? They've won elections being that way.
Yeah,
and
but
now,
what do you say to your commission that you launched? Bye-bye, everyone go home.
Look, are we going to be the party that stands back when we're at 29% popularity because we won't fight back? I think this is Democrats sick and tired of being sick and tired.